Top 10 Misadventures of #FloridaWoman. Christopher Dale. Step aside. #FloridaMan. This current one's for the women. Anything folks can do, young ladies can improve. What's more, in the Sunshine State, anything incorporates opiates, irritated attack, public nakedness, and other creative methods of winding up in binds. In the time of #MeToo, Florida has developed with our socially reformist occasions to turn into a really equivalent open-door shit show. Here are 10 bold women's activists, Florida style. 10 Meet the parents. Here and there you just ridiculously need a bloomin' onion. 1. At the point when the Guardians of Lake Worth inhabitant Deanna Seltzer, 28, would not take her to supper at the Australian-themed Outback Steakhouse chain eatery, her response was to remove a page from Crocodile Dundee's Edge-using playbook. In the wake of punching her mom in the chest and arms, scratching her father all over when he endeavored to isolate the two, at that point flipping over and breaking a glass table, Ms. Seltzer snatched a 12-inch enlivening knife too, and pursued her flies around the house. Ms. Seltzer's stay-at-home bold likewise included toppling chairs and slicing up some furnishings. Accused of battery of an individual 65 or more season and bothered battery with a fatal weapon, she was delivered on bail and requested to avoid medications and liquor, which to a Floridian resembles being requested to maintain a strategic distance from shorts and shoes. The circumstance asks various inquiries. Boss among them being, the reason does a 28-year-old need her folks' authorization to go get an overcooked, overrated steak? Another is the reason Outback Steakhouse, or rather, an absence of it, was this regarded youngsters' limit. It appears to be an odd slope to kick the bucket on, or rather, for your folks to nearly pass on. Crikey, losing her cool Floridians are insane enough with family unit temperature control, left be without it. So when the spouse of Lake City occupant Kimberly Dunn attempted to take her climate control system one searing October day, her reaction, by Sunshine State guidelines, was estimated. She shot him in the testicles. 3. As per reports, the previous lovebirds were experiencing a separation, and Dunn's better half needed to sell the AC unit on Facebook, which is something normal individuals do. Trying to forestall the Floridian discharge deal, Dunn roosted herself on the unit with a handgun and wouldn't move, which is something different normal individuals do. One thing prompted another, and Dunn's hubby wound up seeping from his baby makers. Fortunately the man's sibling was there to drive him to the ER, since he probably had his hands full by then. He went to the clinic, and she to prison, both with some disclosing to do. Addressed by police, Dunn asserted the shooting was incidental, and that she simply proposed to one of her significant other. How about we all accept she prevailing in this undertaking? What a gas. Another possibility for best feature actually is the handicraft of Sarah Jo Longacre. Naked toothless woman huffing propane threatens to blow up police. 14. The 45-year-old Naples occupant was staying out of other people's affairs, sucking gas from a propane tank in her carport with the lights off bare, when her clearly overprotective mother called the cops on her. Guardians, am I right? Be that as it may, in spite of its Floridian brilliance, the feature didn't do the circumstance its full equity. At the point when police showed up, they found two things. To start with, Longacre was the size of, well, a section of land. The modest 300-pounder looked more like a refueling SUV than the regular #FloridaWoman simply attempting to get high in her carport. Second, shock of astonishment, Longacre was somewhat blasted. She detailed devouring 2 liters of liquor, which is amazingly explicit for somebody heaving propane from a nozzle. Irritated at having her security so completely abused, Longacre started a lighter, held the fire close to the spout and took steps to end a now stuff gathering with a blast. Police eased off and chose to get the mother out of the house. At that point, Ree moved toward Longacre. This time, they had the option to kick the propane tank away before a deadly Floridian firecrackers show. Accompanying the none too satisfied Longacre off the premises took a few crisis laborers. She kicked and chomped, police said, yet it didn't hurt in light of the fact that, per the feature, she has no teeth. Longacre was hospitalized, captured and accused of taking steps to release a ruinous gadget and opposing an official with savagery. Check, please. Should this webpage actually build up a rundown of top 10 headlines ever? The diamond invoked by the site of WPLG, a neighborhood ABC subsidiary in South Florida, will get solid thought. Florida woman drops pants, licks man, dances naked in Waffle House parking lot. 4. 38-year-old freedom rider Zobrist, whose guardians either were civil rights activists, 5, or basically have an incredible comical inclination, was captured a year ago in Pensacola for obscene introduction, jumbled lead, battery and attack, also called the Florida Superfecta. As per police, a worker at a Waffle House, 6, think about an all-day, everyday white refuse cafe. At that point, Increase It over the southern U.S. requested that Zobrist leave the cafe because of her conduct. Typically, she before long returned and obnoxiously manhandled the representative, taking steps to get a firearm and fire the man in the face, alongside the remainder of the laborers and benefactors. Another fulfilled Waffle House client. Following this plain trade of thoughts, old-fashioned freedom chose to free herself of her garments. In the parking garage, she pulled down her jeans, uncovering herself and moving around the parking area, still sans pants. Zobrist certainly stepped up to the Waffle House worker and licked the two sides of his face. She covered it off by obstructing his vehicle inside the parking garage and moving bare before his vehicle. G's Nectar, get a shaft and a Sunshine State Samaritan toward the beginning of April of this current year, as the COVID-19 pandemic was starting to affect her locale in suburbia of St. Augustine. 42-year-old Abril Sestoni chose to pay special mind to her kindred Floridians in her own uncommon manner. In the midst of reports of markets coming up short on fundamental things, and with Easter practically around the bend, Sestoni figured people could utilize an occasion-suitable shot in the arm. Never one to look for credit for good deeds, Sestoni kept her commitments unknown. Gathering scores of empty plastic Easter eggs, she brought forth an arrangement to give local people a COVID care bundle, Florida style. She headed over to a few houses in her area, leaving the happily hued eggs in the letter drops. Inside the eggs, 7, were a gathering of isolate-capable treats, a wafer, powdered beverage blend, 1 square of bathroom tissue and a folded magazine page with an obscene picture on it, all standard-issue Sunshine State staples. Lamentably, Sestoni isn't as secrecy as the Easter Bunny. Defied by police, she confessed to setting the eggs in the letter drops, clarifying that she was teaching individuals. She was accused of 11 checks of conveying foul material. However, she professed to have circulated exactly 400 eggs, dinners on wheels, and meth. Jocelyn Lopez was somewhat ravenous, so the 20-year-old occupant of the Gulf Coast town of Lecanto, Florida, chose to belittle her neighborhood Walmart. Smaller than expected biscuits, check. Cinnamon rolls, check. Rotisserie chicken with sauce, check. Sushi, of course, why not? 2 containers of modest wine, 2 full, check. Meth, 8, you wager your sweet Florida NASP, check. One would envision that high on an illegal medication client's needs list is don't get found doing unlawful medications. Unfortunately, Ms. Lopez missed that day's reminder, potentially on the grounds that she was occupied with doing meth. So in the wake of shooting 2 needles worth into her veins, Ms. Lopez tossed circumspection to the breeze. To begin with, the assumedly walking young lady decided to forego a conventional handcart for a mechanized bike truck, zooming around the paths in a vehicle intended for Florida's prospering populace of old and hefty inhabitants. #Morica. The other thing Ms. Lopez decided to forego was the sales register, instead deciding to devour her dinner not too far off in the basic food item area. The dance was up once a representative seen a half-unfilled jug of wine in her truck. At that point looked as she snatched a case of sushi from a rack, ate a piece. At that point put the crate back on the rack, also called a Floridian buffet. 10 exotic pets that escaped and multiplied in the Florida wilderness. Nabbed and in the mood a year ago, an agent pulled a couple over close to Jacksonville after they removed a vehicle and almost caused a crash. Smelling liquor. The official put 35-year-old Megan Mondanaro and 31-year-old Aaron Thomas nabbed for doubt of alcoholic driving. Yawn. Another Homer day in the Sunshine State. Correct. Wrong. Exploiting an uncommon open door for a desired #FloridaMan #FloridaWoman combo. Mondanaro and Thomas went full Florida by having sex in the rear of the watch car. 9. Noticing the two had shed their garments and were occupied with as of late captured love, the delegate opened the vehicle entryway to mediate, so, all things considered, Thomas pulled a definitive wham, bam, thank you ma'am, by running, or, all the more precisely, streaking, distinct, stripped into the night. After what was likely a profoundly engaging, be watching out police scanner notice, Thomas was captured and both he and Mondanaro imprisoned. Accusers included opposing of savagery, unnatural and indecent act, presentation of sexual organs, and driving impaired. No word on whether either cop vehicle copulator got off daintily or something else. She am who am. Imagine a scenario where, per Joan Osborne, God was one of us. Simply a good-for-nothing like one of us. Simply an outsider on the tricycle. Collier County occupant Leda Crisostomo, 52, was persuaded these heavenly head-scratches were a long way from explanatory. The Florida lady and God were, she deduced, indeed the very same. God clearly made them destroy to do. Jumping on the Florida variant of the Pope Versatile, a kid's tricycle, Crisostomo snatched a handgun and rode around town, pointing it at a few past adherents as she went. God at that point went out on the town to shop, Florida style. Crisostomo accelerated over to a left mail truck and demanded that one of the bundles was heaven sent. At gunpoint, she offered to remove the go-between. The package was conveniently conveyed to the divinity, who headed out on her tricycle. 10. Tragically for God, the detachment of chapel and state police finished presently. A cop vehicle pulled up close by the Holy Trinity's tricycle and gave a critical instruction: drop the firearm, presently. God agreed. The firearm wound up being a toy in any case, since God needn't bother with shots. Crisostomo uncovered to police that she was, indeed, God. At that point said the voices in her mind were advising her to get things done. Evidently God converses with herself. Crisostomo was captured yet before long delivered, and was most recently seen building an ark with a toy hammer. Cherished buddies, a mother's work is rarely done. What's more, for glad Floridian Jennifer Mulford, nor is her girlfriends. Mulford was so devoted to her secondary school darling, Brad Leeson, that she quit her place of employment to take their relationship to the following level: the adult breastfeeding relationship level 11, that is, clearly, grown-up breastfeeding is sufficiently common to have its own abbreviation, ABR. Mulford had consistently been captivated by ABR, however experienced issues finding an appropriate accomplice until she reconnected with Leeson. At the point when I read about the bond breastfeeding could make between two individuals, "I was desirous," she stated, which, thinking of her as home state, is just somewhat ludicrous. "Brad and I both needed something very similar out of the relationship, a mysterious bond that no one but breastfeeding can accomplish. There was, in any case, a catch. Jennifer hadn't had a kid for a very long time. She was 16, which in Florida is in reality somewhat old. The now grandmotherly for Florida 36-year-old wasn't lactating, so needed to dry feed and siphon her bosoms routinely to trick her body into delivering milk. Presently, the glad dairy-driven couple nurture at regular intervals, even for the time being. Evenings have been a battle," Mulford concedes, on the grounds that Brad rests so calmly. "Yet, we figure out how to adapt. Until," she proceeds, "he nods off locked onto me. Which is excellent. Fortunately for the individuals who eat strong food, and wish to shield from heaving it in a pour, as far as possible, the mammary frenzy to their home. Mulford doesn't breastfeed her sweetheart out in the open, which in Florida is viewed as normal graciousness. You're fired, Florida style. This section is a pyrotechnic sunshine state 2 for 1. To begin with, there is no wrath known to man-like except for a #FloridaWoman's hatred. However, shockingly for one guiltless vehicle proprietor, it additionally has no ineptitude like a #FloridaWoman, period. Carmen Chambly, 19, had pretty much enough of her ex. So she left the Florida adaptation of a furious note on his vehicle. She lit a cloth ablaze and stuck it in the gas tank. At that point popped the storage compartment and set within a flame. 12. The main issue. It wasn't her Bose vehicle. "I have no clue about what her identity is," said Tampa inhabitant and previous car proprietor Thomas Jennings, whose Honda Civic met a not really thoughtful end. Subsequent to playing out the Florida rendition of John Goodman's vehicle-destroying scene from The Big Lebowski, Chambly was recognized by means of reconnaissance video and captured somewhere else. In Jacksonville, a more fruitful illegal conflagration burnt a man's vehicle for the most Florida of reasons: he wouldn't get her a McFlurry ice cream, 13, from McDonald's. At around 12:30 a.m. one fine night, Melanie Cross was shouting for frozen yogurt, yet without any result. Denied of treat, she stepped up and grabbed the man's keys, get a gas can, soak the vehicle and set it burning. The vehicle's proprietor, who without a doubt wasn't loving it, attempted to no end to quench the blazes. In spite of numerous observers and reconnaissance film, Cross at that point did what any obvious #FloridaWoman would do: she stuck around to deceive the neighborhood news group, guaranteeing the vehicle was her own and had suddenly combusted.